Police on standby following violent service delivery protests in Bekkersdal. Earlier, officers used tear gas and rubber bullets to disperse crowds angry about the lack of electricity. Slindelo Masekane was there at the protest. She's back now in the office and joins me in studio. So there seems to be more and more protest action in the lead up to elections.
Of course, we're counting down. We're 28, 27 odd days away from elections. And of course, we know it's just definitely around this time where communities who feel they've been really neglected by government, they feel that this is the time to really get their attention. And they're correct, because as soon as there's a service delivery protest anywhere, best believe some politician from some political party will make their way to that particular area. And in this case, it happens to be Bekkersdal today, which is not new to service delivery protests. In fact, almost every single year, I'm pretty sure I've been to Bekkersdal on an issue around service delivery, whether it's housing, whether it is electricity, whether it is basic infrastructure. And at this point, the residents are saying their fight is regarding electricity. Let's just listen to what the residents had to say on the ground.
Been an ongoing negotiations ever since from 2017, you understand? What is actually our problem here? It is to be electrified in informal settlement, Bekkersdal. If you can ask me for a typical example, our informal settlement was established in 1987. I'm talking about places like Silver City, Sport Town, the eXa. Then the place our leader decided to electrify, which is Zenzel, was only established in 2003. Is that fair to us as South African residents? You understand?
Tell us, what are the living conditions like in Bekkersdal with the lack of electricity?
My dear sister, it's bad. For typical example, you can't find any student having acquired maybe at least one distinction. And the problem is one: how can you study without electricity? Today's education, you need internet in order to complete your projects. How do you do that? We are stuck, guys. There's no development at all in Bekkersdal informal settlement.
No development at all, he says. What's government saying to that?
Well, government, in fact, was there to respond, of course, and we had the MMC from the city of Johannesburg, Dumisi Tole, who actually happens to be, ironically, the ward councillor in Bekkersdal. So he was definitely the right person to speak to, and he was saying that it is not it's not from a lack of trying to get Bekkersdal electrified legally, because it's not as though they don't have electricity, but it is illegally, it's illegal connections, basically. And he was saying that a meeting was underway today, in fact, between the mayor, Herman Mashaba, as well as the contractors tasked to do the electrification of Bekkersdal, trying to see how they can fast-track that process. He's saying that a site has already been identified, a number of things have already been done, but of course, a lot of that is not going to appease the protesters and the residents until they actually start to see that infrastructure starting to unfold. Let's just take a listen to what the MMC had to say.
On stakeholders that they should work with us to ensure that we resolve these issues.
Right. It's not another empty promise.
Look, it's not a promise, it's work that is in progress. I can take you to the side camp if you don't mind. I can take you to the side camp in X section, or I can call one of the leaders that they can drive you there so that you see the side camp. I can give you numbers of the directors of the company. They will give you a constant communication that we have been doing. The only thing is that if you want to invest in such a project, there is fear that if certain things have not been put in place, your investment will go down the drain. So that has been the phobia on the part of the contractor. But I can tell you that steadfast, they are ready, they want to work, and they want to start with this project. For me, it is not only about electricity, it is also about education. You would remember that MEC Panyaza Lesotho is giving children tablets. What happens to a tablet when it runs flat, when you've got to do homework and when you stay in an informal...
And that is the reason why the residents of Bekkersdal are on the streets, is that they are living in the poorest conditions. So as government, can you admit that you have at least failed them somewhat?
No, failure is that we don't have anything. There's nothing that we can give. There's nothing that we can do. I'm saying to you, we can walk or we can drive or we can take a chopper and I will take you to the side camp. I am saying that we are working as we can go to the mayor's office now. And he's having a meeting as we speak to resolve this issue. It's not as if there's nothing that we have been doing.
All right.
It's hard for any politician to admit that they're failing, isn't it? So let's talk about what happened, though, afterwards, because we saw the rubber bullets being fired at that crowd.
Now, of course, residents embarked basically on a march after barricading a number of roads in and around Bekkersdal. The R28, in fact, is the main road that leads you into Bekkersdal. And so when they started embarking on that march, the police had to stop them, basically, because it was not... they did not have a certificate to march to the municipal offices. And at some point, the police basically said, this is where it's going to stop and this is where it's going to end. There were accusations that residents were starting to throw rocks at the police. And so at that particular point, the police had to retaliate, fire those rubber bullets, tear gas at some point, and dispersing the crowd. At around 2 o'clock this afternoon, the rain started to come down. We saw things dying down, people taking shelter. The residents, though, have promised that they're going to continue with their protests, and so we understand that the police will remain in the area. Let's just have a listen to General Kekana on that matter.
What happened to the community as it's disgruntled and protesting about service delivery issues? The unfortunate part, they blockaded the road, they bent tires, they were disrupting day-to-day lives of the people, and we cannot allow that, because despite them having the right to protest, despite them having the right to march, they cannot infringe the rights of other people. That's why we had to clear the roads. Amongst others, unfortunately, as you saw, they throw police with the stones while police are trying to bring order and to ensure that there is easy access for normal day-to-day life for vehicles and people. We had no choice but to use rubber bullets to disperse them so that life can come to normality.
All right, you'll be monitoring that story for us. Appreciate it. Slindelo Masikane, of course, working on that story.